Huh? Mabel asked for what had to be the third time in a row. Dipper sighed deeply. She was coming down from a sugar rush, so hopefully she would be able to comprehend a sentence soon. He really wished he was able to stop her from eating all those sugar sticks. Okay, Mabel, this is the third time and I really need you to get it, Dipper said, desperately grabbing his sister by the shoulders. He took a deep breath, smacking another tube of sugar out of her hand. We're in danger. Wendy is in danger. Our family is in danger. Mabel blinked, the sound of Dipper's voice finally reaching her ears. As her head looked down towards him, her eyes full of understanding. Her spaced out look brought on by the sugar coursing through her veins became sharp, focused. Oh, thank goodness. About time, Dipper smiled. What's the deal, bro? Mabel asked, full mission mode setting in on her brain. The sugar that was keeping her unfocused might have faded, but the sugar that was keeping her pumped up was still blasting away inside of her. She was practically jumping with energy, bursting at the seams. Dipper pointed towards the giant hole in the wall behind the arcade machine. Oh, that doesn't look good, Mabel said, mouth slightly agape. She'd seen a lot of weird things since she and her brother had stepped foot in this town, and for most of it she'd been clueless until stuff started hitting the fan. Her first boyfriend turned into a demonic pile of gnomes, and her second, not really boyfriend, turned into an evil sorcerer. Even a simple family fishing trip turned into a fight for survival against alien bounty hunters. Though, if she were being honest, not seeing that one coming was far from her fault. But the point was, she was trying to learn how to use her danger sense, learn how to see bad things coming before they happened to her. She wasn't exactly great at it, but she was getting better. At least, she hoped she was, and staring at this giant hole in front of her was definitely triggering whatever danger sense she had left. Something really big probably made this thing. Big things almost never meant harmless these days. I don't know yet, Dipper replied. He looked serious enough to keep her attention, and the fact that he was with her instead of sitting next to Wendy did volumes to show about how serious this thing, whatever this thing was. Where's Ben? She asked. I don't know. He was with Gwen when we got here. Dipper sighed, a twinge of annoyance seeping into his voice. With Gwen off having fun, Ben was literally their only means of defending themselves, but he went off on his own almost immediately. And if they went off to find him, something could happen to everybody else. At the very least, they'd have Gwen, but he didn't know. There were a lot of people for just Gwen to be watching. I think we gotta make them leave, he responded. But, isn't this your big chance? I mean, Wendy's standing right over there and she thanked you for having a good time, he said, pointing at Wendy, who right now was in the middle of rooting through the remains of a teen clothes shop. She had a smile on her face, and a really vibrant one at that. Feeling it right now. I know you don't want to admit that you like her or anything, but... Mabel... Dipper cut her off, harshly, before letting his hands drop beside his side. He already admitted to Ben that he was doing all of this to impress Wendy. Getting them into the building, breaking records on the old arcade machines, everything. Even if Dipper hadn't said why. Even if he was being honest with himself, he didn't know or didn't want to admit why. But unfortunately right now, it didn't really matter. It was between Wendy being happy and Wendy being alive to be mad at me. I guess I'll take the second one, he said, bitterness seeping into his voice. Mabel put a hand on his shoulder. This is gonna be rough for you, isn't it? Mabel asked. Dipper didn't say anything in response. That answered her question for her. Well, if there's one thing the Pines are good at, it's killing the fun, right? She grinned, spinning around. Let's go wreck a party. Dipper smiled at her. It was nice to not have to blow this whole thing up alone. At least he wouldn't be the only outcast after all this was said and done. Gwen was mostly just watching off to the sides as Wendy and her friends raided what was left of the shops in the mall. She was just not really interested in that kind of thing, but something did catch her eye. In the back of a clothing store, away from the designer clothes that filled the aisles, or the cashier space so full of dust that it looked like it was snowing, was a wooden display. It felt kind of weird looking at it, like she was being pulled towards it. I heard the sound of Thompson and Robbie arguing falling into the background, along with Wendy's cheers as she put out yet another cool find. She honestly began losing track of herself. Didn't know just how long she had been back there. She began leaping through the drawers. They were full of necklaces and rings, things that didn't really interest her, but it felt like there was something else here. But finally, her hand uncovered something. It wasn't fancy or shiny like anything else, not even remotely. It was just sewn on a string. A smooth one with a very simple yellow design on it. And it was beautiful. Got bored, huh? Campy's voice echoed in her ear, snapping her out of her trance. Huh? Gwen muttered, blinking hard until her mind caught up with her. You don't have to hide it, Camby replied, still somehow not looking up from her phone. Your cousin seemed to kinda be having fun, but you and your brother don't seem thrilled to be here. I'm guessing it's not your vibe? She asked, cocking an eyebrow. I'm trying, Gwen replied. And she was. She was trying to have a good time. She even went off with people that she didn't know, trying to join in the mall raiding fun. It was just checking out everything in this place didn't really interest her. How now? Even in the middle of this conversation, she felt her eyes slowly drifting back toward that necklace. You know, you don't have to enjoy this, right? Camby replied, making Gwen pause in confusion. A lot of the time I don't enjoy this stuff. It's a little lame. She looked around, taking in the atmosphere. The dark, dusty den where people would once spend their time. The footprints of hordes of people still left in the ground below. The echoes of fun this building once held were almost tangible. Almost. But now, this place is dead. Camby continued. Nobody around, no music playing. Any free stuff we might get is like 5 years old. Then why are we here? Gwen found herself asking. Because a couple of people thought it would be a good idea. And because I like being around those people, mostly, she said, shrugging. It's kinda lame to be sitting out here by yourself, she said. Gwen knew half of what to expect. Ben was always the one who was a little bit better with people, even if not by much. Probably because he was willing to do just about any stupid thing anybody asked him. And Gwen, she was plenty good with talking, but connecting, not by a long shot. Being called lame, this wasn't the first time that happened. Bullying was kind of a fact of life. She got the "you're weird" speech from more than enough people. She took a deep breath and just kind of waited for it, only for Camby to nonchalantly move beside her and lean against the wall next to the jewelry that Gwen was glancing at. What's happening? Gwen asked. I said it's lame to be here by yourself, didn't I? She said, for the first time looking at Gwen without her phone in front of her. It was just a glance, but still. It definitely caught her off guard. So, what are we looking at? Camby replied. Gwen didn't reply, her mind taking much longer than she thought it would to connect the dots before her. Hey, Earth to Tennyson, I asked you a question. Is this the first time that's happened? Great, Gwen replied, shaking herself off. Turned once more toward the jewelry that had caught her eye. Only now she had a bit of a smile tugging at her lips that she couldn't really explain. She grabbed the wooden necklace from the box and lifted it into the air. I know it doesn't look like much, but no, it's pretty cool, Camby replied. Gwen glanced at her. It was back in her phone, but somehow Gwen got the impression that she wasn't lying about having seen it, which was definitely a little weird. It was almost like she was in front of a psychic again. Only this one probably wasn't going to go as bad as last time. Thanks, Gwen said plainly, staring at the object now in her palm. It was almost glowing. You could kind of see a halo of light begin to form around her hand as she held it. Are you just gonna stare at that thing all day? Camby asked, raising her phone. It's a necklace, right? You can put it on. I'll snap a picture for you. Oh, that's nice, Gwen said, looking back up at the girl. But don't you want to go back with the others, or... What, are you kidding me? You came to an abandoned mall, went off on your own, and started looking at the weirdest thing possible. I hang out with them like every day. You're too interesting to leave on your own, she said, Gwen catching a glimpse of a smile from behind the girl's device. That was a new one for Gwen. The only people lately who said anything even remotely nice like that were, well, they were family. So are you wearing the stupid thing or not? I need to know whether or not to close my app. Fine, jeez. She shook her head, and she raised the necklace over her head, before finally letting it drop over her shoulders. Almost immediately, she felt something strange surge through her body. It was odd. It felt almost like what happened with Gideon, but this time it was different. It was smaller, more controlled, but it still felt big. It felt like the world was falling away from her, like she was the only thing that she needed to focus on. It was incredible. Was this what it was like when her brother put on the watch for the first time? It felt like she was stronger somehow. Crash. A sound forced her out of the moment, grounding her in reality again. She spun around to see her family, her cousins, who were throwing chairs through a window? What the heck is that about? Camby asked, yelling for the first time since Gwen had met her. I have no idea, Gwen replied, but knowing her family, there was a good reason for it. Which meant their little outing had just been interrupted, again. Which meant they stumbled into a threat, again. And right when she was getting into the whole mall thing. Holy crap, this place is huge! Ben shouted from the second floor of the now abandoned comic shop. He and Kevin had now been searching around for at least 10 minutes, and he kept running into new stuff. These comics were decades old. At least some of them were, and they were still neatly packed on top of each other. A lot of these were stuff that could go for pretty big bucks today. They even had some relatively modern stuff. Steel samurai, sumo slammers, and... No frickin' way, Ben said, his hands gently clasped around a single issue of a comic book. What'd you... Oh, holy crap, Kevin muttered, hanging over Ben's shoulder. The first issue of Seance Dog? It's gotta be worth... Geez, how much would this be worth? Ben flipped it around in his hands. Kevin was probably gonna want it, and he was the one who knew about the place. That was definitely gonna suck, but he was gonna make sure to look at this thing as long as possible before he had to give it up. It was the kind of thing he only found once in a... Nice find, man. You gonna sell it? Kevin asked. Am I gonna... Wait, you don't want it? Ben asked back. Nah, you're good. Kevin shrugged. Finders keepers, right? Wait, seriously? Seriously, Kevin responded, giving Ben a small grin. Sure, the thing was valuable, but it was crap compared to what it came to the town for. It wasn't like he was gonna take a break from looking for plumber tech to just sell some old comic books on eBay. It would just be a distraction, and the last thing he needed right now would be more distractions. He already was looking for the plumber tech, and he still didn't know where it was. Whoa, thanks, man. Ben paused, lifting his head up slightly. A sound rang through the air, a couple of them actually. The first was faint. It sounded kind of like glass breaking, which was weird, but that was probably nothing. The other, though, was much harder to ignore, for both him and Kevin. That scratching? Kevin asked. Sure enough, it sounded like it. The sound from the other side of the wall was bombarding them. It reminded Ben of the animals around the shack in the rust bucket, scratching at the trees in the middle of the night. Only this time it sounded a lot more loud, intentional, like something wasn't just marking its territory. Like it was trying to tear through its target, leaving nothing remaining, trying to escape its confines. Oh, crap, Ben groaned. He was having a good time. He was having a really good time, actually. Sure, he liked knocking monster butt around as much as the next guy, but did it have to be every frickin' day? Alright, get back, Ben said, waving his hand back. Kevin rolled his eyes as he kneeled down to the floor, touching it, the metal surface washing over him. Forget who you're talking to, Monster Man? Kevin scoffed. Honestly, yeah, I kinda did, Ben thought. If this was just one thing, whatever this thing was, then Ben was sure he could probably handle it. Though a thought did cross his mind. It was the first time since Charmcaster where he tried to fight something without his family's help. And when he fought her, she dragged him through the woods for hours and nearly killed him. Fun. You gonna transform or you gonna scare it away with your normal face? Kevin asked, turning to Ben. His face screwed up in a clear show of telling Ben to get his crap together. It wouldn't be the worst plan, Kevin joked. Ben shook his head. I'm just waiting. My transformations are limited, you know? I don't even know what we're dealing with out there. He said, trying to keep Dipper's training in mind. Analyze the situation if you can, and act accordingly. The 10 aliens in his watch were adaptable to basically any situation, as long as he could make the decision before the situation happened, that was. Yeah, sure, just wait until they're already here tearing out our throats, Kevin muttered. But, brew cautious, you got a big tough guy in there? Kevin asked, Ben taking a moment before nodding his head. Then use it, and punch whatever's trying to get in here. Think you can handle that, Tennyson? Ben felt any nervousness in his body crack away, as a confident grin replaced it. Just punch it. He hadn't been able to think like that in a while. He didn't realize just how much he missed it. Yeah, I could handle that. Not a problem. It's hero time! He opened the dial, slamming it down on his heaviest hitter. No one did brute strength better than... Forearms! The second he let loose his battle cry, the wall crumbled to the ground, something new pushing through. It looked almost like some kind of rat, if a rat was on the same super soldier drugs as Steve Rogers, with a good amount of meth worked in for good measure. It barreled into Ben instantly, making contact with his gut and making him stumble back. He barely had time to recollect himself before the thing was on top of him again, biting into his forearm with all its strength. Which, while it hurt like hell, it wasn't enough to break the skin. Ben used his other two arms to slam on top of its head, bringing it crashing to the ground. It landed next to Kevin, who took the opportunity to swing his leg with enough force to punt it back into the wall, smashing through the drywall and flopping it onto the floor. Really? That was what you were so afraid of, Tennyson? Took us 5 seconds. The wall rumbled again, another rodent coming out of a hole, and then another, more and more funneling themselves out into the open, and until an entire weaponized pet shop was staring them down. Rule number 1 of fighting: don't jinx yourself, Ben said through Poor Arms' deep voice. A bit of fear seeped into that voice. This was the gnomes all over again, but this time they were actually kind of scary on their own. If one could hurt him in a one-on-one encounter, and there were easily a few dozen, things were going to get bad very quickly. Rookie mistake, Levin. Yeah, I get it. Kevin swallowed hard. Bring them to their knees, my friends. Make it so they won't be able to fight for years. Bring me the head of the hourglass, and the world shall grovel at the might of Dr. Animal. A voice rang through the hollow walls. Ben was paying attention to the voice, though if he was being honest, the name completely slipped him by. He just didn't care about that. Something else caught his attention much more. Hourglass. This guy called him Hourglass. Ben groaned as the creatures came upon him. Come on, don't you weird cultists ever take a day off? What the heck are you doing? Wendy shouted, the others around her looking at the chair that had just been thrown through the window by Mabel. Getting your attention, Mabel said proudly, even under the stares of every other person in the room. Dipper stood directly by her, and unlike her, he was heavily shrinking under the view of the others. To go, Dipper said, desperately trying to find his voice under the stare, the increasing judgment of the others weighing down on him. Especially Wendy. This sucked a lot more than he expected it to already, and he had the distinct impression that things were only gonna get worse, especially from the increasing twitch in the redhead's eye. Most of the people in this room hadn't seen anything supernatural before, so they weren't gonna believe him if he thought that the giant hole in the wall might be leading to a monster, which meant that he was gonna have to make up some stupid excuse. This is an old store. Chances are this stuff's been outlawed. There could be lead in the walls or something, asbestos in the air. Again, are you kidding me? Wendy crossed her arms. She definitely didn't look amused. And Robbie, even though he was the one who saw the giant hole in the wall in the first place, he still wasn't even remotely concerned about it. Clearly, he had had all the common sense in his head knocked out in an effort to impress Wendy. Really? These are the guys you bring here? Talk about lame. He scoffed. Lame or not, you guys still need to go, Dipper pleaded. At this point, Gwen and Tambry had surfaced to the sound, finally getting closer to understand the situation at hand. What's their deal? Tambry asked nonchalantly. Gwen took in the sight for a single moment. Dipper's sweat-drenched face, Mabel's attempt at a serious expression, the fact that neither one of them were backing down. It was an emergency. We gotta go, Gwen said, drawing the attention of the others. Even Tambry put away her phone. Now. Oh, come on, not you two. Wendy scratched at her head. What is it, something in the air with your family? Do you just hate fun or something? Wendy. Dipper stared towards her. No, not cool, man. None of this is cool. He huffed. Dipper felt a pang of pain in his chest, but he forced himself past it, just in time to grab the chair that Mabel threw and raise it up, ready to make even more of a mess before Wendy grabbed his arm. Dipper, if you want to leave, just go, said through gritted teeth. Not without you, Dipper responded. Wendy looked to the side to see Mabel had the same determination he had on his face. She knew these people. They were odd, sure, but she doubted they would make a mess out of something so stupid. This didn't make sense. Let's just toss the dweebs out and keep looking around, Robbie offered, rolling up his sleeves. At least we know not to bring them anywhere else. It was like the words he spoke weren't even reaching Dipper. He didn't flinch, barely even moved, just kept staring at her with a glare that, now that she looked at it more closely, had a hint of pleading to it, like he was begging her to take him seriously. Dipper, I need you to tell me right now, what's going on? He said, the look on her face now shifting to the same serious tone that he had. Dipper looked around at the others for a moment, before Wendy stepped right in front of his face. If you don't want to tell them, fine, tell me. What's happening? She asked again. Trouble, Wendy, Dipper said. All the performance from his voice was gone. It was sincere, earnest, straight to the heart. Wendy took a deep breath in. Right when she was about to say something, a sound echoed through the room. The sound of scratching. Oh no. Dipper stepped back. What, a little sound freak you out? Robbie rolled his eyes. Dipper? Wendy asked nervously, as she glanced toward the boy who had already moved up toward the sound. Along with Mabel and Gwen, the Pines Tennyson family stood together, taking a sort of battle formation around the sound's location. Something that confused nearly everybody else present. Nearly, except for Wendy. She was finally starting to put the pieces together. Everyone, get out! Dipper shouted. As quickly as you can, and don't look back! Come on, what is this? Some kind of prank? Robbie asked, only to feel Wendy's hand on his shoulder pulling him away and beginning to push him toward the exit. Only by then, it was too late. The scratching stopped, and it was replaced by something far worse. The sound of tearing, of breaking, of crumbling. A hole in the wall appeared, and a horde of beasts came rushing out. Rodent-like ones they were pretty sure they could handle, but there were more this time. Frogs who leaped from area to area on top of the shelves, easily the size of large dogs, and mosquitoes with stingers bigger than their heads buzzed above them. One thing was immediately clear. These animals were a lot more mobile than they were, so running away wasn't an option anymore. It meant they had to fight while also protecting the others. Guys, did any of you see where Ben went? Dipper turned to the others. No, he kind of went off on his own, like the second we got here, Gwen swallowed. Oh, well that's fantastic, Dipper groaned, ducking out of the way of a frog leaping down on him with the full strength of a boulder. He managed to get an inch away from being crushed like a grape. Gwen? He shouted. He was the only one even slightly capable of doing other offensive deeds. The spell she learned from her book had to do something. On it. She focused. She couldn't think of anything big from her spell book. The best she could think of was a low-level defensive spell. Something to create a shield that would probably break in one hit, but it would still buy them time, and right now time was what they needed the most. Get everybody together. It will be easier for me to help you all that way, he ordered. Wendy immediately followed her lead, the others falling behind her within moments, except for Thompson, who had been pulled away by the last second by a rat. Gwen lifted her hand in the air, and just barely managed to form a barrier, one so strong it shone extremely bright enough to stun every creature attacking them. Get that? Dipper stuttered out, only to see something glowing around Gwen's neck. He grabbed at it unconsciously. Oh, he muttered. I think this thing is supercharging me. Great. Everyone in our family gets magical artifacts except me, Mabel pouted, crossing her arms. Dipper let out a laugh, and one that felt very good given the circumstances. They were safe, for now, thanks to his cousin. Who the hell are you guys? Robbie shouted out, losing his composure with every passing second. It was a question that went ignored by everybody else in the room. How'd you even get that necklace anyway? Dipper asked. Gwen glanced at Tambry, who, despite the intense situation around her, just barely managed to crack a smile and tell a single joke. Trying on clothes isn't that stupid now, is it? She chuckled. Yeah, I guess not, Gwen managed to say. Her mind was still reeling at the possibilities at the moment. She didn't know who left this necklace here, but she was glad they did. It seemed to make the whole magic thing a lot easier for her. All she needed now was to figure out if it only worked on this kind of spell, or if it could apply to others. She knew a few offensive ones off the bat. Maybe it would be easier to just use them too. Like tapping into the power that she did before, but without losing the control. The barrier around her thudded again. Whatever she was gonna do, she was gonna have to figure it out quickly. Dipper glanced out at the creatures trying to get in. He reached into his bag and pulled out his journal, flipping through the pages. There was nothing about them in here, not a single entry. He knew there were other journals out there thanks to Gideon, so it was possible that these creatures were in there, but it was also possible that they just weren't out there anywhere. That maybe these creatures weren't just regular monsters, but they didn't look like the aliens he fought before. But maybe they were. Aliens probably could look like anything. The only thing that he did know in the moment was that his book was next to useless right now, so he'd have to rely on something else. How long do you think this can hold up? Dipper asked. I don't know, Gwen responded honestly. It didn't feel particularly painful to keep going. Honestly, it wasn't even exhausting all that much. I can maybe go for a couple of hours, I think. We can't just be in here for that long. What, so they can surround us more? Those things got Thompson, Robbie shouted. I know, Dipper responded. Well, if you know, why don't you do something about it? Robbie replied. Well, why don't you help if you're so smart? Dipper said, only realizing that he had already said it, shouting. He was mad. That was a pretty foreign feeling for him, but having somebody, especially somebody that he didn't like, criticizing his family's actions right now, especially when they're all trying to defend him, was really starting to get under his skin. Robbie flinched, staring down at Dipper with anger in his eyes, but not saying another word. Good, that's settled, Dipper said, still somewhat bitter to his own surprise. If it's amping up your power that much, he turned to Gwen, might be able to amp up something offensive. Maybe you use your telekinesis to grab them all? I can try, Gwen replied. Wait, this is... Oh, maybe hold off on that then. Dipper scratched his head. I got it, Mabel shouted. You could use your power to push them all back. You know, bash them into walls and knock them out. Like an epic scream of power that you see on TV. She beamed. Dipper shrugged. It was worth a shot if anything else. You think you can manage it, Gwen? Gwen again responded with, I can try. Only this time there was a bit more stillness in her voice. The fact that she didn't know if she could do it didn't mean anything. She had to do it. Took a breath in. Let's find out. Dropped the protective barrier for a second. Monsters flooded in, but they didn't get very far, a couple of inches at most. She clasped her hands together, and a purple glow centered in the center of them. Then she pushed her hands outward. A gigantic gust of wind pushed the monsters away. It pushed them away with so much force that they clattered into the walls, into the ceiling, into the floor, in a single blow. That was all it took, and they stopped moving, unconscious. The ones on the ceiling fell to the floor, raining down like the creepiest rainfall any of them had ever seen. Robbie stepped forward, and he took the opportunity to run. He ran out into the hall, into the center of the mall, right towards the front door, only for something to snatch him up before he quite got there. A mechanical arm, used by somebody hovering above them. The others got out into the hall just in time to see it, and the man had Thompson clutched in his other mechanical arm. And the totems finally come out to play, he grinned with snarled teeth. Hey, totems, not you guys again. Dipper winced. Matter, young man? Not happy with being important once in your life? The man before him asked. I know you definitely didn't see it before. For all your smarts, you seem to just drop off the face. Especially after what happened a year ago. Said. Dipper could immediately guess to what he was hinting at. The fact that he was an orphan, thanks to these people, apparently. Might as well do something interesting with your life before it fades away. And nothing is more interesting than what you are. A pawn of fate. Just let everybody else go, Mabel shouted from behind him. You want to fight us, right? That's what everybody wants. So just let everybody out and then we can make with the punchiness. 2 versus us, right? 3 of us. I think you mean 5, dear girl. There are 5 totems here that I want. He corrected himself. 5? Dipper wondered. He expected maybe that this guy knew about Ben, but that would still only turn 3 into 4. What was going on here? He looked back at the others, at Robbie and Thompson wriggling in his hands. None of them wanted to be in this situation, and those guys really just had nothing to do with it. They were after his family, so his family was going to be the ones to have to deal with this. Fine, yeah, the 5 of us will fight you. Just let them out of here. Perfectly fine with me. A man as brilliant as Dr. Animo doesn't need simple hostages, and I would like to see you in action before I take you apart. I wouldn't want your simple minds too weighed down by the task ahead of you. He threw Robbie and Thompson at the front door, the 2 of them landing like ragdolls on the other side of the threshold. Robbie was the first to get up. He began frantically waving for the others to follow him. Hembry looked over at Gwen. Guys, run, I think. He'll kill you? Because that's what he'll do if we run. Gwen corrected. She clutched her hand to her new necklace. Summer has been about the weirdest thing I've ever experienced. But if there's one thing that I know for sure, it's that we'll be fine. Hey, thanks for going shopping with me. She smiled as she pushed Hembry away, the girl running out of the store with the momentum. Soon after, a crash occurred on the floor, smoke and dust and debris kicking themselves up, as a rodent was found in the center of the crater, one of the bigger ones. In fact, it looked bigger than any of the ones Gwen pushed away. Hey, lab coat, I'm guessing this is your fault? A low, rumbling voice filled the area. A voice that radiated a sense of cockiness that everybody around knew all too well. The cracking of 4 knuckles filled the empty space. I cleaned up your mobs. I'm ready for the main boss, unless you want to hide before some more mini-freaks. Smiles spread through the area one by one, to every member of the Pines Tennyson family. Their firepower just doubled. They didn't know how long Ben had been transformed, but they would be able to move mountains with whatever time he had left, as long as they were careful. Wait, that thing Ben? Wendy asked, her mouth slightly agape. They talked about Ben's transformations in front of her a fair amount, so she knew he could do it, but knowing and seeing were 2 very different things. And looking at this now, she realized how much of her had been disbelieving before. Don't worry, you get used to it after a while, Dipper responded. Although if he was being perfectly honest, he still definitely hadn't gotten used to it. But he was definitely better than the first time he saw Ben catch on fire. There was something beside Ben, though, that he definitely hadn't gotten used to, especially since he had never seen it before. Another boy around their age, and he didn't look normal. In fact, he was shining, like his skin was somehow made of metal. He was grinning from ear to ear, the scuffed metal on his cheek showing that he had been fighting just as much as Ben had. Apparently, Ben made an ally in the short time he was away. Good for him. Good for all of them, really. They needed all the help they could get. I'm guessing he's number 5? Gwen sighed. Oh yeah, Dipper responded. Neat, we're really starting to fill out the whole wheel thing, huh? Mabel replied. That's half of them, right? We'll have a whole team going on. Actually, yeah, that would be a great idea, Dipper realized. These guys were coming after them because they were looking for people on the totem list. So why weren't they doing the same thing? Protecting themselves by protecting each other, like they had done as a family already. Mabel, you're a genius. Glad you're finally starting to realize it. Mabel stuck her tongue out. Last chance, Animal said, turning to everybody else in the area. I'm going to pick you apart piece by piece. This battle, as you look at it, will be nothing more to me than a scientific study. So if the last insignificant pest wants to leave, now is their only chance. Dipper turned to Wendy, who looked back at him in response. The voices of Wendy's friends were filling the background. Get the heck out of there. Save yourself. This whole thing was none of her business anyway. But somehow she seemed to be almost reading Dipper's mind. It was like everything else fell away, and she knew what he was going to tell her before he said it. I'm staying here, she replied. Wendy, you can't... I told you to come find me the next time you were going to fight a monster, didn't I? She said. Can't exactly go back on my word right now. Got back to her feet. I'm not going to abandon you guys. I'm staying right here. The chance has elapsed. Ready yourselves. Your end will not be quick. But bask in the glory that your deaths will aid scientific inquiry. Animo said. As he finished his sentence, the windows of the whole mall slid shut. So did the door, a metal sheet covering all of them. It was thick enough that Ben was pretty sure he wouldn't be able to punch his way out of it, at least without a few minutes of concentrated force, which he was pretty sure he wasn't going to get, but that was fine with him. Kevin stared at the man in front of him. This also wasn't the tech he was looking for, but this guy's tech was pretty valuable. Whatever he used to mutate those creatures had to be worth a decent bit, and he could tell just by looking at the construction of the whole thing that it was based on plumber tech. So this guy definitely knew something, and something big about what he was looking for, which meant only one thing. Gonna take this guy down. Hard. You ready to crack an old man's head, Tennyson? Kevin cracked his neck. Should be. Ben bared his teeth. Good, because I'm going first. Kevin launched himself off the banister of the second floor, falling into a punch that landed squarely on Animo's cheek. Hey everybody, I'm sorry if this video took a couple of extra days than it normally takes. I had a really big amount of writer's block when I was trying to make it, but on the plus side, I am now in a period where I do have a lot less on my plate. So I should be able to put more into my YouTube channel now, and I'm really excited to get to work on the stuff I'm planning on working on in the future. I'm also just extremely happy that you guys are here to see the stuff I'm making in the here and now. So again, if you are here, thank you so much for it. I really appreciate it. It means a lot. As for what videos come next, I have a couple that I'm working on right now. If you saw my post, then you know I'm working on a Jojo Earth OCU section, which I'm extremely excited about. That one should be within the next couple of videos, and in addition to that, I'm actually working on the next part of Arcane Fantasy, which hasn't been updated for a while. Because I have more free time, I'm hoping to be able to get those 2 videos out faster than I normally do, so fingers crossed. I really appreciate you all. Thank you so much for stopping by. I really hope I was able to entertain you a little. If you did like this video, please let me know by hitting the like button, and if you want to see more of this series or any other series in the future, then be sure to let me know by hitting subscribe. If you haven't already, check out the earlier videos in this particular playlist. There's a lot of stuff that this interpretation of the story changes about Gravity Falls and Ben 10's mythos, so they're pretty important for context. I go super in depth on the first video of the series with a lot of the changes, and if you want to know why the characters' art styles look so different here, I explain that in stuff like Part 3. So next time, I've been your captain, and it's been a pleasure to take you on another tour of the strongest Earth in the multiverse. I really hope to see you soon. Bye now.